Hi guys, it's Laura. Thanks for watching and welcome back to my channel. So today it's gonna be a very beginner friendly tutorial for this Red Riding Hood cape that I'm wearing right now. So I will explain it quite detailed and hopefully understandable also for people who just started out sewing. So if that's something you're interested in, then please keep watching. Let's have a look at my sketch first. So that was the idea for my Red Riding Hood cape. I wanted to have a very simple cape that I would tie at my neck, and I wanted to have a hood that would be pointy from the back. This sketch represents the fabric that I have used for the cape. So the fabric was folded in the middle, so that's the fold. And I took a sewing crayon and I outlined the shape of the cape on the fabric first. So first I drew here at the corner a curve. The curve was 7.5 inches, which was 19 centimeters. And then I took my measuring tape and I always started measuring from here till here, till I had 50 inches, and I made a point. And I did that at several places, so I came up with a few points that I connected, and then I had this curve. So that was everywhere 50 inches. Now that would be the front edge of my cape, and that would be the back middle. I wanted to have the cape longer, so I added here 3 inches on the bottom. I made a dot, and then I started drawing another curve that would approach the original curve. So the cape would end up being a little bit shorter in the front and a little bit longer in the end. Now, this measurement, 7.5 inches, 19 centimeters, is for my cape that I did not hem in the front. The fabric had kind of fortified edges here, and they had kind of little fringe, and I liked it, so I decided not to add here seam allowance. However, if you would want to make a nice hem here in the front and you would want to fold the fabric inwards, you would have to add about an inch or an inch and a half. So your curve would be not 7.5 inches, but about 8 or 9 inches. This is the sketch for a half of the hood. You will need 2 of these layers. So I came up with the shape that worked fine for me. So the hood was 15.5 inches high, which was 39 centimeters. But since I made it a little bit rounded, this is only the straight measurement from this point to this point. But it is a little bit longer because this is curved. And then I made the hood 35 inches long, which was 89 centimeters. And this measurement should equal this curve plus seam allowance, because we are going to make a nice hem. So this is 7.5 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance, which equals 8.5 inches. That's this measurement. Now the rectangle is for the strips of fabric that will serve me in order to tie the cape at my neck, and I made them 57 inches long, which was 144.7 centimeters. And they were 2 inches wide, which was 5 centimeters. So that is the concept of the piece that we are going to make today. Here we have the pieces for our cape. So here we have the main piece. Then in the back there is the hood. I'm gonna go a little bit closer. So here we have it. So there is the hood, and then I have here these 4 strips of fabric. So 2 of them are going to be for my hair, and 2 of them are going to be for the closure, so that I can tie the cape on my neck. I have already pinned these edges together, so the bottom edge of the hood and then the upper edge of the hood. And now, as a first step, I'm gonna sew these edges through with straight stitch and then we'll take it from there. I have sewn the hood together with straight stitch and then I edged it with zigzag. If you are new to sewing, I have videos about sewing with straight stitch and also about sewing with zigzag, so I will link them down below. Maybe you will find some useful tips. And here's what I have done with the pointy end. So I cut the excess fabric back to where the pointy end of the seam was. I made sure that I wouldn't cut through the thread, and I edged it also with zigzag. Now this is the front of the hood that's gonna be around my face, so now we want to hem it. So what I will do is I open the hood like so, I fold this seam to one side, and now I'm gonna be folding the front edge inwards, and I will fold it twice so that I will have a nice clean edge here on the inside. So I folded it here in the middle. I'm gonna put a pin at an angle, and then I will continue doing so until the entire front edge will be hemmed like this. Here we have it. The edge has been folded inwards twice and pinned in place. And now I will sew through with a straight stitch. And one thing I will do before we start is I will grab my scissors and cut back here this excess fabric. Here is what it looks like once I was done with sewing through the edge. So that's from the outside and that's from the inside. I have also folded the top seam to one side. I pinned it in place and I have sewn through with a straight stitch, but I haven't sewn all the way through to the bottom. I stopped about here. This is a little bit further than the middle. Here you can see at what distance I have started sewing through the seam. So here we have the middle seam and that's the new stitch. And as I was approaching the end, the point where I wanted this seam to end, I made sure that I came closer and closer to the middle seam, and I'm gonna zoom a little bit more in so that you see clearly what I mean. So here the distance is getting smaller, and here I basically stopped sewing right where the middle seam was. I hope this made any sense. One more thing, I tried the hood on and I kind of didn't like this section. It was too wide, so I have sewn through at this angle. I'm gonna go over with a sewing crayon so that you can see how I adjusted it. So this is where I have sewn through with a straight stitch. Now I'm gonna cut back the excess fabric and I am going to sew through the new edge again with zigzag. Alright, so I have sewn through the edge with zigzag on the bottom, and now I turned the hood to the right side, and I have here a painting brush which I'm gonna use in order to shape the tail of the hood so that it's gonna be as pointy as possible. So I'm gonna gently push the fabric out, but very carefully because we don't want to destroy anything. And when I'm gonna be at the end, what I like doing is also taking a pin and kind of grabbing the fabric and pulling it out a little bit more. But again, very carefully because you don't want to destroy the fabric. Now, here we have the neckline of the cape. When I cut the cape out of the fabric, I did not add any seam allowance on the front edge because I have decided I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. It is a little bit frayed out and I like the way it looks, but if that's something you don't like and if you would want to fold it inwards twice, just like we have done around the front edge of the hood, you would have to add seam allowance. But again, I decided that's okay for me. I'm gonna leave it like that because I'm lazy. And now I folded this in the middle and I'm gonna grab my scissors and make a little cut so that I know where the middle is. And I will align the bottom of the hood with the neckline. So I'm gonna align the middle of the bottom with the middle of the cape. I'm gonna put a pin in at an angle, and then I'm gonna align the edges, so the front edge of the hood with the front edge of the cape on both sides. Here we go, again pins at an angle. And then I'm gonna kind of stretch out the neckline and align the edge of the hood with it nicely, and I will keep putting in pins. And once this will be pinned together, I will use a straight stitch to sew this together, and then I'm gonna edge it with zigzag, just like I did for the other parts of the cape, or actually of the hood. Now we have to take care of the bottom edge, so I'm gonna do nothing else than what we already did around the front edge of the hood. So I'm just gonna fold it twice inwards. I'm gonna pin it in place. This is gonna take a while because it's quite a long edge, so I'm not gonna film all of it, but you get the idea. So basically fold twice inwards, put in the pins at an angle, and then sew through with a straight stitch. I made a last minute decision, and instead of sewing through with a straight stitch, I have sewn through with stretch zigzag, and here's what it looks like. Now I have here these strips of fabric, so what I will do is I will fold the edge inwards like so, and then I will fold both edges towards the middle, and then I fold it once more, and then I will put a pin in it. And I'm gonna continue doing so until I reach the other end, which I will also fold over. And that way I will have basically something that's like a bias taped, sewn together, and this is going to be the closure. It is way easier if you take the strips of fabric and you iron them first. Basically you fold them in the middle and iron over them, and then you fold these two edges towards the middle and iron over them too, because then the fabric's gonna lay nice and flat, and it's just gonna be so much easier to pin these together. So I highly recommend doing that. Alright, so I pinned the strip of fabric together. Now I'm gonna sew it through. I think I'm gonna use the stretch zigzag as well, because that's gonna keep it flat, and then we'll take it from there. Now I have here these two strips that I just finished, so I have sewn through with stretch zigzag, and I will pin them here to the neckline from the inside, and I will sew them in. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make a knot at the end, so that's gonna weigh them down a little bit, and the end's gonna look cute. Also, I decided I'm not gonna finish the other two strips for my hair. I'm kind of not feeling it, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm lazy and I want to be done. So now the strips are pinned here. I'm gonna sew through. I'm gonna make kind of like a rectangle and a cross in the middle. So I am wearing my Red Riding Hood cape with a white shirt, black velvet blouse, and a faux suede skirt. I have a tutorial for this skirt here on this channel, so I will link it in the right corner and also down below. And you don't need necessarily to have a vest and a shirt. If you have a white blouse or a nice white shirt and you would pair it with a skirt like this, that would work well. So you don't have to buy anything new, you can use whatever you have. It can be a flouncy dress or anything quite girly. And if you don't own any clothes like that, you could maybe ask in your family or your friends, and if they don't have anything they could lend you, then you might want to go just in a thrift shop and see if you can find something like that. Halloween costumes don't have to be expensive, and I personally find it's always great to keep it on a budget because it's something we usually wear just once or twice. And that is it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to write them down below in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and see you soon with my next project. Bye!